welcome. This is Jack, the Lone Road Ranger, and we got a new video about Arrow Rock, Missouri. For those of you who don't know anything about Arrow Rock, I think you're really going to like this. I was fascinated by the town, and I'm planning to go back on one of their events coming up. We're here at the visitor center of the Arrow Rock State Historic Site, and it's pretty fancy. They've got a walkway here that is unlike very many that I've ever seen anyway. It's very nice and long, and everything's kind of over a small creek. I'm really not much for museums, but I did like this one. I just didn't take enough time going through it. This shows some of the artifacts, and of course the Indians were here before anybody else. Clear back in the early 1700s they found artifacts, and in this museum it has an endless variety of different tools and implements they use to farm with, just to survive with. And what's amazing about it, when you think about it, we can just go down to the local hardware store and buy tools. They made all of these, almost all of them, maybe except for the guns, but just pretty much else they had to come up by themselves. Of course, I won't bore you with the details, but if you ever do get there, please go through this place. It's really opened my eyes to the way the pioneers lived. Many of them had children who died young because the cold and the diseases like pneumonia and influenza. It's sad, it's very sad, but that's the way life was, and to a certain extent still is. This is Claiborne Fox Jackson. He was a pretty important part in the Democratic Party in Missouri. Interesting fact about him, he married a daughter of Dr. John Sappington, who was a prominent physician in Arrow Rock, and after 4 months of marriage his wife died. So he married his second daughter, and after 4 years of marriage she died. So he went back and asked for his third daughter's hand in marriage. Her name is Eliza, and Dr. Sappington replied, "You can have her, but don't come back for my old lady." Thought that was pretty good even for those times. This next portrait is of James Piper, who was a prominent businessman in Kansas City, Missouri, and a painter by the name of George Caleb Bingham, who we'll talk about a little bit later, painted this. And James Piper was his brother-in-law by his second marriage. This portrait was almost the last one he ever did. It was done around 1874 or 1875. We're going down Main Street in Arrow Rock, and I want you to take note of how neat and trimmed and almost perfect everything is in this town. They're getting ready for a crafts fair, and I guess they expect a big turnout. They do this every year. The town is very unique and quaint. Quaint really isn't the right word, it's just extraordinary. We're getting ready to see the J. Houston Tavern coming up here. This is the tavern, and it has a history all to its own. The town was founded around 1829. It was originally called New Philadelphia and was later changed to Arrow Rock. Joseph Houston was one of the town commissioners, and he built this 2-story brick building in 1834. And because Arrow Rock was located on the Missouri River and along the Santa Fe Trail, travelers undoubtedly, asked if they could stay the night there. And so he made it into a hotel and then a tavern and then a restaurant. This is the Lyceum Theater, and it's relatively famous in this part of the country. It was an old Baptist church, and in 1961 it was sold and it became the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater. And they have great concerts there, they have plays. In fact, just a couple days before I got there, they had Bryce Leatherwood, a famous country singer. They have had Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let's see, they've had the $1 Million Quartet. I saw them in Branson. They're fantastic here in this little old town. As I said previously, this building was built in 1834 and it's remained virtually unchanged even today. One of the unique things about Arrow Rock is they have boardwalks like the old western towns used to have, and of course there's no rotten boards in it or anything like that. It's pretty solid. But all these stores are open all the time in the summer. Here's the post office, and this man with one person, I think, all year. And some of the stores I'm sure stay open all year as well. And I just walked this boardwalk and thought, man, this is fantastic. This is an ice cream and beer shop, which, man, he hit my button right away. I went in and got an Arrow Rock chocolate, I think it was. And man, it was fantastic. And the people here are just so nice. The guy inside there told me a little bit about the history of Arrow Rock, that this was basically the beginning of the Santa Fe Trail. And so people would get all their supplies here before they headed on west. These stores were thriving back in the 1870s, 80s, and even 90s. But after they lost their bid for a railroad, rapid post-war growth in urban areas such as Kansas City and St. Louis began drawing away the residents with its promise of better jobs. You can see that the population in 1880 was 304 people, and today it's only 60 people. After the Civil War, there was a number of blacks who remained in the community. They built houses, developed their own school. And you can see that the gutters right here are all laid with rocks. Those were done by slaves before the Civil War. In fact, the Union militia enforced martial law on the town during most of the Civil War. I'm walking down the sidewalk toward the J. Houston Tavern, and you can see everybody's setting up for the Crafts Day. And the local Masonic Lodge was built in 1868, and since 1961, the local craft club have made and sold crafts in the lower level ever since then. We're going up here to the tavern and getting ready to go inside. Take a look around there. Everything here is as old as the building, it looks like. It's just very quaint and just very well kept. I noticed that each one of these rooms has its own kind of theme. And I don't know what the names of the rooms are, but I know that they have their own particular names with the reference toward a certain theme. Keep in mind this was done in 1834. What is that, 190 years ago? Something like that? You saw that little quick menu there. Food looks absolutely delicious. And that would draw me right to it. I eat too much the way it is. We're going into the old kitchen. And notice the fireplace. Back in the early days, the fireplace was the kitchen. You fixed everything in heavy pots and pans and put it over a fire and add ingredients to it and let it simmer right there, because there was no stove, so to speak, back then. You can see the wood cabinet over there was called a cupboard that kept some of the dishes and things like that clean, kept the dust off of them. Back into the main dining room there. Everything's set up for customers. I wish I would have stuck around and ate some of their good food. Really looked good. This is the store, I guess you'd say. And you can see all the things they have here. They have everything from butter to honey to spices, jellies, jams. And I kind of think maybe the Crafts Club helps with this a little bit. I don't know that for a fact, but the J. Houston has a little club of its own called the J. Houston Society. And they must work pretty hard. This is the old stone jail. There used to be one made out of logs, and arsonists burned it down, just a few months after they erected it. So they built this stone jail, and they only had one person in that jail, and he yelled so loud all night long and disturbed all the residents that they let him go. That'd be a good way to get out of jail. Boy, it gives you the heebie-jeebies in there. I have claustrophobia, and I got the heck out of it. It's just, I can't imagine being in that thing on a cold winter's night. It had a hole in the back wall that looked like for a flue pipe, and so it probably did have heat, but just being cooped up in that thing for more than I was just now, man, I just couldn't take it. It drove me literally nuts. I'll just shut up for a few minutes and let you look at these old pictures. I see that a few of them have this old yarn spinning wheel. I don't know what else it's called. I think spindle wheel or something like that. Anyway, just take a look at them. I just marvel at how they did these things back then. I always try to pick out one famous person from every town, and Arrow Rock has George Caleb Bingham. He was a pretty renowned landscape painter and portrait painter. He began doing that about at age 16, and by the time he was 18, he was selling portraits for $20 a piece, sometimes completing a portrait in a single day. $20 was a lot of money back then. He did all these paintings you're seeing now. It's just amazing the quality and the detail of all of these. He was a public official. He held several offices. He ran for office once in the Missouri House of Representatives and appeared to have won in 1846 by 3 votes, but lost in a recount. In a reprise of the election in 1848, Bingham won the seat by a decisive margin, becoming one of the few artists to serve in elected political office. He was elected as a delegate to the Missouri legislature before the American Civil War, where he fought against the extension of slavery westward. I would like to thank everybody for spending some time watching the videos and listening to me talk. I know sometimes I get a little bit long-winded, but it sure is nice to have you aboard. If you like everything you've been seeing, I sure hope that you like and subscribe to help our little channel grow. Thanks again for watching. We'll be seeing you pretty soon. Adios.